I've often felt that some prominent characters in the Marvel Universe don't get their due diligence, and I think Lady Deathstrike is one of them. I mean, she's always been around and been a part of some pretty critical story arcs, and yet there have been few attempts to explore this character in live action or animation. Well, at least X-Men 97 gave us a glimpse of this badass lady as we see Yuriko Oyama in action in the 5th episode of Season 2, where Wolverine goes back to restore his adamantium and reaches an abandoned Weapon X facility. Now, this particular portrayal was hardly that of the villainous side of Yuriko, but we have seen her do some evil stuff countless times before, and even though her origins might be worth a sympathetic thought, we still thought this might be a good time to dive deep into her physiological details and explore what makes her such a powerful and deadly adversary for Wolverine. It's going to be a good one, so let's get right into it.
There is only Deathstrike!
The dark childhood secret of Yuriko Oyama. They say villains aren't born, they're made, and this is surely the case with Lady Deathstrike. Despite all the alternate versions and story arcs that paint her as an antagonist, you need to really understand where Yuriko Oyama comes from. She is the daughter of Kenji Oyama, a Japanese kamikaze pilot during World War II. His failed suicide attack on an American ship left his face horribly scarred, and he considered his survival a disgrace. To compensate for this, he decided to spend the rest of his life in atonement, but his methods were rather questionable. He lived on a private island with his wife, 2 sons, and daughter, Yuriko, and he disfigured his children, including Yuriko. Kenji Oyama went by the name Lord Darkwind, and he started a criminal cult empire on his island. His sons were killed in an attempt to assassinate the Japanese Prime Minister, and with time, Yuriko started hating his ways, especially after she fell in love with one of her father's assassins, Kira, a blind follower of his ideology. What transformed Yuriko into a hardened criminal? Why would a person who hates the criminal and violent ways of her father embrace the same world? Well, the tragedy of Yuriko's life continues even further if you look back at the time when she fell in love with Kira. After encountering Daredevil in Japan, Yuriko guides him to her father because this was the perfect opportunity for her to get revenge for both the death of her brothers and the scarring of her face. In fact, she's the one who killed her father just as he was about to murder Daredevil, and while this might have been the beginning of a happy ending, it wasn't to be. Her lover, Kira, committed suicide after learning about the death of Lord Darkwind, and this left Yuriko devastated. It also changed her outlook on life completely, and she chose to carry on her father's legacy. This is when she first started calling herself Lady Deathstrike, and the next stage of her life is what brought her close to Wolverine. How did Lady Deathstrike turn into a living weapon? This is one of the key turning points in her career. Yuriko tried to retrieve the adamantium skeleton from Wolverine because it was the product of her father's experiments, but she was defeated in the attempt, and this made her even more determined to better herself and make herself Logan's equal. She struck a deal with Spiral, aka Rita Wayward, the 6-armed sorceress who serves Mojo. In her body shop, she transformed Lady Deathstrike into a cyborg, and even her facial scars were healed in the process, but of course, this came at a cost because she had to sacrifice her humanity as well. She now had a strong machine body, and she had adamantium claws that could match Wolverine's, so Spiral held up her end of the bargain. Unfortunately, it still didn't work because Wolverine defeated her in one-on-one combat, and he even refused to mercy kill her after she was badly damaged and begging to be killed. How does the adamantium in her system work? A crucial part of transforming her into a living weapon who can take on Wolverine was to infuse her skeleton with adamantium. As a result, Lady Deathstrike has bones that are virtually unbreakable. Her fingers have been replaced by 12-inch adamantium claws, and these can cut through just about everything except for adamantium or Captain America's shield. That said, being able to cut through a substance depends on the amount of force she uses and also on the thickness of that substance as well. These finger claws are a little more delicate than the steak knives protruding out of Wolverine's forearms. What makes her claws such a deadly weapon? Ever since Lady Deathstrike became a cyborg fused with adamantium, the finger claws became her weapon of choice. Lady Deathstrike utilizes her claws, or fingernails, and this is her main mode of offense. These razor-sharp nails can extend up to 12 inches in length, and just like her cybernetic skeleton, the claws are also laced with adamantium, making them extremely lethal. Aside from cutting through substances or her unfortunate foes, she can also hyperextend the fingers and claws to great lengths to impale a target from a distance. Also, it's worth noting here that it's not just her claws that can be extended. Her arms can also grow to incredible lengths so that she can grab her enemies or slash at them from a distance. This is actually something that makes her superior to Wolverine because the feral mutant isn't capable of such feats. Is Lady Deathstrike sufficiently strong and sturdy? This is a question that comes up plenty because people make the mistake of assuming that her powers come from her adamantium and cybernetic enhancements. Well, let me dispel the myth for you, because Lady Deathstrike is a remarkably strong woman even without any of these special abilities. She has superhuman strength to the point that she can lift up to a ton, and she's also suitably durable to withstand significant hits and blows. Her stamina is also notable, and there's a scientific reason behind her tireless performance. You see, her artificial musculature also means that she produces less fatigue toxins than the normal musculature of an ordinary human. Thus, Deathstrike is able to exert herself physically for much longer than most athletes on Earth because fatigue doesn't impair her in the same way. To add to her strength and stamina, she's also freakishly fast, and she can run and move faster than the fastest human. She's truly a worthy supervillain, and perhaps now you understand why she's rated so highly as one of Wolverine's most feisty opponents. What's her basic muscle structure like? It's hard to understand the full extent of Deathstrike's anatomy if you don't grasp the basics of her musculature. Said musculature is heavily augmented with cybernetic actuators, and this gives her superhuman speed, strength, and agility. She also has insane reflexes beyond what any human muscle can produce. This is sort of a layered system, where the original muscle groups remain as a base, but they're interwoven with synthetic fibers, servos, and reinforcement plating, allowing explosive movement and precise control of her claws and body. Her legs and spinal column are reinforced to handle the torque and impact forces of high-speed leaps and slashing attacks, and this turns her entire frame into a shock-absorbing, spring-loaded weapons platform. Even her nervous system is cybernetically enhanced so that signal transmission and reaction time are upgraded along with physical strength. These systems tie into her claws and allow micro-adjustments in angle and force for any complex cutting maneuver. This is the reason why we see her carving through armored targets and deflecting attacks with crazy precision, and it's never just crude stabbing when it comes to Lady Deathstrike. She can be a menace with a katana. I don't think people focus enough on the fact that even before the transformation into a powerful cyborg fighting machine, Lady Deathstrike was a seasoned warrior. You can imagine how her father must have trained her as a child, and she's a deadly force with a katana. She's wielded a 5-foot-long electromagnetically tempered steel katana, and she was a real menace with it. Unfortunately for her, that katana was destroyed after it shattered against Vindicator's personal force field. She also used a high-powered, long-range blaster that could fire armor-piercing explosives and grenades that could cause significant damage. Is Lady Deathstrike immune to telepathic attacks? In the X-Men universe, there are so many psychic mutants with mind-controlling and manipulating abilities that this immunity is an absolute blessing. Lady Deathstrike cannot be brainwashed or attacked telepathically because her consciousness isn't fully human. She's partly computer, and this consciousness can be backed up in non-organic databanks. A telepath can still target her human side, but they wouldn't be very successful. Her cyberpathic abilities also come in handy. In my books, this is Lady Deathstrike's coolest superhuman ability. She can cybernetically interface her consciousness with exterior computer systems. This allows her to direct data access to her brain's memory centers, and it grants her the ability to operate any digital or computerized system remotely. She might not look like it, but she is an incredible hacker as well. How does her cybernetic healing factor work? She wouldn't be a very worthy opponent for Wolverine if she didn't have a very impressive healing factor of her own, and of course it just so happens she does. This is courtesy of an upgrade from Donald Pierce, and it allows her to repair any damage done to her cybernetic and organic parts within a quick time period. Even the damage that's been inflicted by Wolverine's deadly adamantium claws has been reversed because of her healing abilities, and it works within a matter of minutes. However, as you would expect, the time to heal varies depending on the extent of the damage, and very severe damage can take a lot longer. What's the difference between the nature of her healing ability and that of Wolverine's? This is an interesting topic because even though they both seemingly heal themselves, the nature of their healing abilities is very different. Lady Deathstrike's body repair is mechanical. Her cyborg systems reconfigure and restore damaged components. However, the rate is slower as the damage increases, and if her systems are overwhelmed with exceptional damage, or if her organic core is compromised, she can be permanently disabled. Meanwhile, Wolverine's healing factor is biological, and it's one of his mutant abilities. His cells regenerate damaged tissue, and anything from organs to skin to muscle can be repaired. We've seen him recover from some pretty bad injuries, and I think his healing factor is a lot stronger than Deathstrike's. She can't recover from damage to her internal organs or brains, but on the plus side, her adamantium and cybernetic enhancements don't poison her the way Wolverine's adamantium constantly stresses his biology. A skilled assassin and martial artist. Lady Deathstrike has been raised and trained in a way that makes her a very skilled assassin, just like her brothers who died. She's a skilled martial artist who's something of an expert in kenjutsu, and she has various other samurai warrior skills to go along with it. She has successfully run her father's criminal empire, which means that she has her leadership qualities and a business acumen, and this proves she's not just about brute force and superhuman powers, she's also got a pretty smart brain guiding her. How can she be killed? You can imagine how difficult it is to kill someone as powerful and invulnerable as Lady Deathstrike, but there are a couple of chinks in the armor that can be exploited. As seen in X2, X-Men United, her healing factor can be overwhelmed if her internal cavities, like her lungs and stomach, are filled with liquid adamantium. This will fatally damage her body as the adamantium solidifies and neutralizes her completely. Also, since her entire biology is dependent on the self-repairing machine body, along with living tissues, there are some extreme measures that would work against her. For instance, decapitation might kill her, and even total cellular incineration might be enough to bypass her healing abilities and kill her for good. Aside from the live-action film, she's been killed a few times in the comics as well, but she's easy to bring back since she's a cybernetic villain. But in no way is she some immortal villain. Can Lady Deathstrike reproduce? If you've been watching our videos for a while, you probably knew this one was coming, right? We can't wrap up an anatomical study without exploring the reproductive possibilities, no matter how you joke about it in the comments. Well, when it comes to Lady Deathstrike, she surely could reproduce when she was fully human. In fact, we've already covered her love interest who killed himself after the death of her father. Also, X-Men the Animated Series added a nice spin to her romantic life when they merged the character with that of Wolverine's comic book fiancée, Yuriko Oyama. It's indicated that they had a romantic history before she joined the Reavers and turned herself into a cyborg to avenge her father. This is the same continuity as X-Men 97, which is why you see Rogue throwing a jibe about their romantic past. So in short, she could reproduce, and she probably still can as long as her reproductive organs are still intact. That said, cybernetic enhancements take up some space in the body, and she doesn't have a child in the 616 continuity, and the more recent versions of her don't seem very motherly, so we doubt she ever will. As you can see, she's had quite the storyline with her powers and unique anatomy, and you can understand why we think she's a little underused. It was great to see her in action in X2 X-Men United and X-Men 97, although I'm pretty sure we're not going to see much of her going forward in that series. I'd love to be wrong about that though. Be it her past connections with Wolverine or her tragic upbringing from the comic book lore, we really want to see more of this character in future Marvel projects. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of Lady Deathstrike, and also share your thoughts on her recent X-Men 97 appearance. Also, if you like this video and you want to see more videos like it, the best way to do that is hit those like and subscribe buttons, and bonus points, it also helps us out as well in bringing you that stuff. Other than that, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.